Thank you. So I love this, and the privilege that I have is serving with Athletes in Action as the chaplain to the Steelers, man. I get to see and participate up close with you guys. I not only get to see the coaching and all that incredible stuff that you do on the field, but I also have a glimpse into who you are, right? And it's not just coaching all the time. I mean, as we heard just Pastor Ed just saying, man, how you guys are involved in the community, what it is that you do, you want to impact the fatherless. So, guys, I just want to throw some interview questions at both of these guys so that we can kind of get to know them a little bit and hear from them. So here's the first maybe question for both of you guys. I want this to be like a conversation. Right? I don't want it just to feel like an interview setting, because in the interview setting, you already know what's coming. So, I gave you these questions, so you're ready to roll. So here we go. What was it like for you? So let's get personal. What was it like for you guys to grow up? Fatherless for different reasons. What was it like for you to grow up fatherless?
Age before beauty.
Well, thank you. This is an interesting story, but I'll get to that. For me, it certainly had its challenges, but like I mentioned to the breakout group that I had an opportunity to spend time with earlier, you really don't understand how challenging it is until you have your own. Yeah. Probably the saddest reality for me is I didn't know what I missed. Or really feel what I missed until I had my own kids. And so it's been a continual process for me to determine the impact that it's had in my life.
Yeah.
To be quite honest with you. I was in college, man. I was in my first small group, and I was struggling with my developing relationship with Jesus Christ, my Heavenly Father, man. And one of my mentors said, man, you have a broken relationship with your earthly father. And so there's going to be certain challenges in your spiritual life. And that was, something that getting exposed to and continually understanding over the course of my life. And so I guess the answer to that question for me is, I definitely wasn't aware of the impact of it when I was a child. I just knew that it presented certain challenges. I'm continually educated about what it meant to be fatherless.
Yeah. And what I'm hearing you say, man, is that, I've preached this before, that the image of God that we carry around in our heart and our mind impacts the way that we live our daily life. And if we have this image of God as Father and that isn't a great image, or we don't even know what that image is, right? We might not know, that impacts how we view God. And so that's a great lesson that your mentor was teaching there. Cam, what about you, man? What was it like?
Oh, man. I lost my dad when I was 17. And, that was the most important time in my life that I needed him. I'm going into the family business, as you would call it, but not having the guy to tell you how to work. What Coach brought up, when you have kids, you really start to notice all those different moments. Like not having my dad be there for when my son was born, or a big, mark in my life. Those all start to cultivate at once. And I realized years later how much I would cultivate the relationships to bring up a father figure in my life. Whether it was, my high school coach, my mom. I treated my mom like my dad for like the longest.
Yeah.
And thank her to death for doing it, but there was no, I was always trying to make sure a coach was my dad, or someone else was my dad, or my friends' parents were my dad.
Yeah.
Because the cool thing about me was when I got back to Pittsburgh, I got to hear more of his stories, and I got to almost relive those times without having him here. But it's been something I've always had to work on, because not having your dad in those moments, you don't know how much you're going to miss him till those moments come about.
Yeah, I hear you there, man. So when I think about what that was like for you guys. And those moments, there's these little moments that you probably notice, okay, Dad's not here. Man, I wish Dad was here. But was there a moment as you guys were getting older where you noticed and had the hardest time with the fact that, man, Dad is not here? You know, what was that for you?
You know, I think it's, I think it's in parenting for me. I learned a lot about myself through parenting. I try to be the best dad that I can be, but at the same time, it's interesting because of the job that I hold, and so, it comes with a certain amount of fanfare, and so I just try to be in support, but I try to stay out of the way, and I've always tried to do that. I'm the guy that's, at the top of the bleachers, just with one of those.
Yeah.
I'm on the fence, and so my kids would run by and they go, and I go.
Yeah.
And
they know.
And then I start thinking, man, I wish I had that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
In the midst of my competitions that were seemingly really important to me, when you're a kid, 12, 13 or whatever, man, I think about my experiences of running along that fence, and it's really an interesting thing, and that's what I mean when I say I'm continually probably discovering what I missed. I took my oldest boy to college, and I dropped him off on Father's Day like 2 years ago. Great, it don't get any better than that.
Oh,
right?
man.
It don't get any better than that, man. My wife didn't even have the stomach to go. You know what I mean? And, I had my mentality ready. I was going to give him the extended locked elbow handshake. You know what I mean? And so I did, and I felt good about it. And I gave it to him. All right, son, go live life. See ya. And I kind of held myself together, man. And I'm sitting in my car, and I'm pulling out, and I look in my rearview mirror because I think, man, he's going to be standing there kind of watching me drive off. Nah, man, he was walking up the sidewalk, man, walking away from my car. But I started thinking, man, he's going to be all right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then I started thinking about that drop-off that I didn't get.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of that.
Okay. Gotcha, man.
Yeah.
Cam, what about you, the toughest moment?
Oh, man. It's like I've had the example. I had the example for 17 years. And so, what Mike brought up, my dad was always at my games growing up, and that was his thing. He was like, I'm always going to be at your games no matter what. And he embarrassed me a lot.
How did he embarrass you?
He's the only person I know that got kicked out of a church basketball league.
Dude, that's fantastic. We share that in common, man. My dad got kicked out of a Christian school game.
Yeah.
I love it.
Even when he was paralyzed and he couldn't use his legs, he would wheel himself to the games. He's throwing M&Ms across. You need more energy. Things like that. And I'm like, why is my dad doing this to me? He's embarrassing me in front of everybody, but nobody else ever saw him as embarrassing to me.
Yeah.
And so, these moments I look back and I'm like, wow, my dad was embarrassing me. My dad was there. I can talk about when he would take me to school and he would have his music blaring in front of everybody. And I'd be like, oh, I'm that kid that's coming through the car rider line, embarrassing. And those moments, as I look back, I want to embarrass my kids.
Yes. Yes.
Hey, make no mistake, he will.
Oh, he will. That's right.
He will be the dad kicked out of the church league and all of that. Like, he got it honest.
Right.
Yes.
And I didn't realize till about, I think Mike even brought it up to me. It was about 4 years ago. And we were talking about my little brother, Connor. And he was like, you're a dad to him. Yeah. And I was like, wait, what? It didn't hit me. I had been a dad to my brothers even before my kids.
Absolutely, yeah.
And so I had to realize I was already stepping into that role so early, so I had to almost not only be their brother, but I had to almost walk them through things that, as a dad, you're not even ready for yet.
Yeah. Well, it's been incredible to watch you guys as I have the privilege, because you allow me access into the locker room and on the sidelines. I get to see how you interact with these players. So as your platforms are massive across the country and across the world. And so as you hear about young men who are coming into your program who are fatherless, does that change the way that you approach these guys? And you as a vet, same thing. When you know that that's coming, do you say to him, look out for that guy, right? How does it change for you guys when you know somebody's coming in without a dad?
There's formality to it, but there's also an informal approach that's probably just as valuable. We do our due diligence in terms of researching the young men, and so we know how they come to us. We know their stories, we know their challenges, and so we seek professional counseling and counselors, and we have the infrastructure of an organization behind us to meet them where they are and to provide them what they need to meet the challenges. But probably more important than that is kind of what you're probably getting at, is the informal.
Yeah.
The brotherhood that is team sport and that is how we function. I'm just as thoughtful and deliberate about that as I am the professional things. Cam and I are really, heavy-hearted today because we thinking about Stephon Tuitt, our brother, who is burying his biological little brother today.
Yeah.
And so, we flew to Atlanta yesterday to support he and his family and pay our respects, and that's what Brothers in Arms do.
Yeah.
But the interesting thing, the perspective that I have in the job that I hold, I get to bring these relationships together so thoughtfully. I remember when we drafted Tuitt, and I said, hey man, we're gonna draft you a little brother this year. And y'all together are gonna destroy the football world. Seriously.
Yep.
And I said, you have been led by guys like Aaron Smith and Brett Kiesel, and now it's time for you to lead.
Yeah.
And shepherd somebody that's coming with some baggage and needs some growth and development, and take them.
Yeah.
And it went so far as to, I brought Tuitt in before the draft on a pre-draft visit, and I organized time for them to spend together.
Yeah.
And I just looked at them, I watched them interact, and I had this vision of maybe what that might look like.
Yeah.
And the cool thing is, we 7-8 years later, man, and they're beyond what maybe I envisioned.
Yeah.
Not professionally, they kick butt, but that brotherhood,
Right. Families.
that support. It's just you can't even eloquently describe the depths of it, man, and that's what we get to do.
Yeah.
Along with that, I think Coach does a great job of understanding our group and understanding if he's with the group, he's okay. And I think, you can put somebody in a situation, they don't always know what's going to happen, but if you put them in the environment and you let them, just be around it. Coach talks about cultivating relationships. When we're around each other, there's nothing you got to worry about because we take care of each other. That's what we do. Once I get to know you on a personal level, I'm gonna take care of you forever. Yeah. And that's just the relationships we have. Me and Tuitt, he used to play basketball with my little brother. And so, looking back, I never even paid Tuitt attention. But once he brought him to the team, I knew I had to take care of him. And, Mike's brought guys into the locker room. I'm like, what the heck did he bring him in for?
Yeah. Yeah.
But, when I get to know these guys, I care for them. And a lot of our guys do. We wrap our arms around them. We embrace those guys. We've had struggles before where guys have just needed uplifting. And it's our job as teammates, our job as brothers, when you step into that locker room, you got to be willing to, sacrifice and be there for those guys.
Yeah. And what I love sometimes, man, when I'm watching your strategy from a distance, I love how, sometimes you're hard on particular guys, but that's your way among alpha males to basically just say, I'm watching you, I care for you. Like, I love how you, with some of the defensive backs, man, you will pick on dudes to make sure that they are paying attention because of the potential that's in that young man, and you want to call it out of them to make sure that they are on their A game at all time. It's just an incredible way to watch this. So let me ask you this question, because the same is true about parenting. Right? You have almost a strategy, the emotional intelligence with each of these young men to coach them differently, to talk to them differently. The same thing is true about all of our kids, right? So, dads of 3 kids each up on the stage, man. So what is it, the one thing that if you could invest in your kids, the legacy that you want to leave your kids, the message you want to teach them, what would you want to teach your kids?
Wow, man. To live a life, man, that shines a light and honors God more than anything. I'm as petty as they come. You know what I mean? I am.
That's an understatement.
Yeah. I'm as petty as they come. I'm controlling. I got all these personality faults that come out. But parenting, cuts through all of that. Yeah. Parenting will have you on your knees, literally. Yeah. I just think about, my middle child, Mason, man, he's a straight A student. He's a rapper. Do I look like a guy that wants a rapper kid?
That's incredible.
I'm just being honest, right?
Yeah.
So I had these meetings with myself, man, I'm gonna like this, man. I'm gonna support this. I need the meeting with myself.
That's right.
I just think it's the continual journey of discovering your faults.
Yes, that's good. That's a good.
And weaknesses, and more than anything, man, being what I need to be for my kids.
Yeah, and trying to connect with them in a way, even it's not your thing. The other night, dude, I got 3 daughters, and I'm doing a TikTok dance just to try to connect with my girls in that way, and I can't dance, right? So, Cam, what about you, man? What do you want to put into your kids, the most important thing?
The thing I was taught the most, leaving a legacy. I think I had 17 years with my dad, and for me, to still hear the stories and still hear the legends of what he's done throughout Pittsburgh, good and bad, he left a lasting mark on people. And when I look back at, what he did in the city of Pittsburgh, whether it was at Children's Hospital or, just interacting with kids who didn't have a lot, man, I want to be able to say that about my kids. And I want my kids to be, just the same way. We're in a society where, all news isn't good news, right?
Sure.
And that's the way my dad was. But what better way for someone to live their life according to that? Where you can see my goods, you can see my faults, you can see where I made mistakes. But you can see I was always trying to get back. I was always trying to make sure the people I loved were taken care of.
That's good. That's good, man. So, a couple more questions here, Mike. I'm gonna have this one be for you because we kind of heard this from Cam already with Wolf earlier. But with this question, I'm not talking about organizationally at the Steelers or even Urban Impact ManUp, but for you personally, how do you? I'm not talking about your kids. I'm talking about those who are fatherless. How do you specifically try to impact a kid's life? What do you look for? How do you go about it personally?
I want to be available. I want to make myself available. That's something that I consciously try to do. It's something that's somewhat tricky because of my job and so forth. For me, it's about being present. Yeah. I was a time kid. I wanted people to spend time with me, to give of themselves from a time standpoint, I responded to that. Yeah. And so that's what I try to do. I try to give of my time. I try to give of my space. I try to integrate normal things that I do into opportunities to impact the fatherless. That's one of the challenges of the pandemic, man. I always got these little mentor relationships, young men around town and things that I come into for a variety of reasons, right? And like over the course of his career, he's gotten to know a lot of them because they're just always around, like at practice and stuff. Yeah. And people are like, man, who are these kids? I'm like, oh, that's my little guy.
Yeah, security's like, what's going on?
Like, no, that's my little guy.
Yeah.
I don't have a lot of time, right? And so I try to, I'm at practice. Practice is interesting to like a teenage young man. Absolutely. And so I invite them to practice. And in the midst of me doing what it is I normally do, I can have an interaction with them and maybe talk about something we're looking at. Hey, see that play right there, man? That's just born out of work, man. That's not a lightning strike. Man, that guy works that all the time. And so I'm trying to, I'm trying to educate them and feed them. And so for me, for a guy that doesn't have a lot of time, for a guy that lives an insulated life in a lot of ways, I'm continually trying to find ways to kind of make myself available.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons why I'm here. And I do events like this because I want to find ways to make myself available, to engage, to provide opportunities for me to give of myself, my space, and my time to those who need it.
That's good, man. And yeah, fire up. I think that's something that all of us can learn from. Two of the most influential men in Pittsburgh who have an incredible platform that are giving back into our community to impact the fatherless, personally bringing them into the facility, Craig's Closet, Heyward House, so much stuff that you are doing, right? But it's not just, the physical fatherless. You are also within your own families, encouraging your kids in the legacy of faith and all this stuff. And I just want to say to us as we kind of wrap up here, man, so what is your thing? Right? What is it, to the busiest men, right, in all of Pittsburgh, giving up a Saturday to impact the fatherless by speaking to you and coming out here and sharing their story with you? What's your thing that you might be able to do so that you might sacrifice, might be able to speak into a young man, their life? What would that look like for you? So if you could, as we wrap up here, man, how could these guys get involved? What's one thing that you would say, man, we could all do this today with Urban Impact, with our communities, man? What would you say?
I said it before, but volunteering, and I mean it. Pastor Glover just doesn't provide a PowerPoint and say, hey, this is stuff we have, don't come. Right. This is stuff that anybody can take part in.
Right.
And we've got to see it on a scale, and you say, wow, I can't believe he's doing it. Why does it have to be just that? Why does he just have to do it?
Right.
Why can't you be a part of it?
Yeah.
Because you're going to make a difference in somebody's life. Whether it's you're a teacher, a coach, just a man you meet, those relationships matter to a lot of people. And I've been very fortunate because of it.
That's good. Yeah, it's great. Well, Mike.
For me, it's really clear, and make no mistake, man, I'm really comfortable being uncomfortable and maybe saying uncomfortable things. Maybe it just comes with the job. But I'd be remiss, man, in discussions like this if I didn't challenge you guys to support ministries, man, like Urban Impact financially. It's one thing to give of ourselves and our time, and obviously that's appreciated. But there's limits to that. I realize that I have financial resources that put me places I can't physically be, that allow me to have impacts. And so, I thoughtfully and cheerfully give. And so, not only am I participating in ManUp and here every year and glad to do so, man, but I make a conscious effort, man, to support the Urban Impact Ministry financially. And I challenge you guys to do it. they're an easy group to buy into. Pastor Ed's probably pissed off at me for saying this, but I don't care, okay? Like, and why am I comfortable saying it? Because, man, like, I buy what they selling. And I'm a skeptic by nature because people sell me stuff all the time, right? People want to get close to me all the time, man. But I watch what goes on at Urban Impact, man. You know the thing that really hits me like a lightning bolt? They live and raise their families in the communities in which they serve.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
Like, that's not coach speak. That's not like halfway sticking your toe in. Like, nah, man, that's all the way in. Yeah. And I respect and I can relate to that, and I want to support that. I want to support that with my time. I want to support that with my profile if it means anything. I want to support it with my likeness in terms of events like this. But nah, man, I got money too. I've been blessed financially because of what I get to do for a living. And so I try to spread that cheerfully. And one of the things I do is support Urban Impact. And I challenge you guys if you're capable to do the same.
Yeah.
And just being honest.
Love it, love it. So I think all of us can get involved in that one way or the other, right? Whether it's our volunteering, our time, whether it's giving of our resources generously. And I want to tell you something, as I'm going to invite Pastor Ed to come out here with us, something incredible has taken place that Pastor Ed is going to tell you about that we have an opportunity to get in on. And so Pastor Ed, why don't you come out here, man, and tell all these guys something phenomenal that has taken place.
Good job. These guys did good, didn't they, guys? Great job. Fantastic. Well, I told you, we ministered thousands of people, and when COVID hit, man, guys, I told my staff, I said, listen, COVID is not just going to be a little snowstorm. It was going to be a long winter. But I told them, I said, sooner or later, spring will come. Well, it's proven that COVID's been a long winter. But in spite of the obstacles, Urban Impact got involved, and we started changing our community. We pivoted, and we were able to work with a number of organizations. We served over 85,000 meals to people who were the most vulnerable in the city. We ended up delivering 30,000 life essentials to people who had no access. But during that time, we continued to communicate and demonstrate the gospel through all of our programming. But then what happened was that our kids were not back in school. And they hadn't been back in school all the way up to this day for 15 months because of COVID. So what we decided to do at that time is we started these learning labs. And learning labs were able to help kids to read, write, and do math. And we ended up doing that for 80 kids for 4 days a week for the last 9 months. But now spring has sprung. And it was really sprung. And we are ready to go. And we're going to go from 80 to over 450 kids this summer. And I've said this many times, nothing moves without prayer, leadership, and money. So we've been praying, and we trained up hundreds of people to come this summer to get alongside these kids who have been left behind. Listen to this. This is the truth. Statistic is this. If a kid cannot read by 3rd grade, they will be in poverty the rest of their lives without the exception of a miracle. So we knew that we had to step in, and we have. And now we're ready to go. But we need resources. My financial people got together and said, Pastor Ed, all the things you've done all through COVID, now coming in the summer, you want to jump from 80 to 450, that's $250,000. You got to raise that for the summer. I said that to a gentleman, just like I'm speaking to you right now, and that gentleman came up to me and said this, hear this. He said, I am going to give $100,000. Any person who gives from this day until the end of August towards your summer program, I will match every gift they give up to $100,000. Listen to me. Yeah, praise the Lord. Give it. Hey, handshake to that. But we cannot meet that need unless people give. And I'm asking you to prayerfully consider this. Because, man, we can make a difference. You can make a difference. Dollars you give will be doubled. Anything you do. But there's some of you who aren't really ready to give right now, because you can go home and you can look at your stock portfolio, you can look at your business, and you can think that thing through, and you can say, you know what, Pastor Ed, I can do better if you just give me a little while. So I'm going to give you a little while. Some of you can give right now, give right now. Kent's going to come tell you how to do that. But some of you can go back. If you go back and you say, I'm going to get my business, or I'm going to get my men's group, or I'm going to get this group to come, and we're going to rally some money alongside that, and we're going to send it to Urban Impact. If you do that, I'm asking you to write on whatever you give. All you got to write on there is summer or open doors. The name of this campaign that we have between now and the end of the summer is called the Open Doors Campaign, because we're open doors. We're opening doors to kids who have been shut in for 15 months. And we're giving them the opportunity to hear the gospel, to be able to read, write, and do math, and do what God called them to do.
Thank you, Coach and Cam, and thank you everybody who tuned in today. One last thing, Dad 4. Dad 4 is all about being a part of this movement of championing fatherhood in our nation. One way you can do that is being here in Pittsburgh in 2022. But for those of you across the nation, it's as easy as this. Share this video. You have friends, you have family. Send it to them so that they can be a part of this movement right now. Thank you guys for watching. Now it's time for you to go out and man up.